Hey guys, BuildZoid here, and let me introduce you to something I like to call the Pascal problem. So, yeah. Basically, this is a replacement for today's live stream of Pascal overclocking. So, also, I will be doing a live stream today for Overclocking TV. We'll be casting some extreme overclocking from stuff I can't disclose yet, but it'll be super awesome, so you should go check that out. I'll post a link on this, well, Overclocking TV, just go there. It'll be at, just go follow them. Twitch will send you a notification. Either way, yeah, the thing is, Pascal is, so I've kept working on the GTX 1070 Dual, right? Looks like this. We have the potentiometer hooked up again, because I finally figured out how it works. And that wasn't, like, yeah, I managed to actually forget that on the stream. Did some capacitor modding on the back. So, you know, the card is very heavily modified right now, and it is scoring worse than ever. And I am not joking about that. Let me show you something. Let me show you. So here we have the GTX 1070. We can see that it is very, very heavily overclocked, and it is scoring worse than ever. And like, I'm not surprised at this point. I kind of have a suspicion on what is causing the issue we are seeing here, but I haven't had a confirmation on it yet. So the capacitor mods are actually, let me just pull this over here. The capacitor mods on this card are actually extremely helpful. They do make it possible to run over plus 700 memory. This is a Micron memory card, so for Micron cards, this is like freaking crazy. That seems to be working properly. That part of the card is good. The problem is this slider right here doesn't seem to be behaving quite the way you'd expect it to. So we'll set it to plus 220. Now, if you remember from my live stream, this card didn't go over plus 150. So we're at plus 220 with plus 720 memory. You know, let's just do a quick validation. We're gonna do that and do start render test, and we can see we're running well over 2 gigahertz according to both pieces of software. The memory is running, you know, 2363, so it is running very, very fast. So let's close that, close this. I'll leave GPU-Z open, and let's run some TimeSpy. This is going to take a while. And we're not going to actually run the full test. I just keep an eye. Well, actually, no. We'll run the first test in full. But really, I mean, if you've ever benched TimeSpy on a 1070, you can already see the problem on that FPS number. Yeah. That FPS number down there is atrocious. Quite frankly, for a 1070, that is apparently running above 2 gigahertz. So, yeah. That's the Pascal problem there. And I'll show you how I can actually get rid of this trash performance. It's just like, this shouldn't be possible in the first place. Like, how does this happen, right? Which is, yeah, I'm very confused as to, well, no, well, I kinda am, and at the same time, I'm not. But this is like a sort of reverse Fiji in terms of weird issues. So we just finished the benchmark. I'm gonna escape out of the second test, and we got a 26.24 FPS average, and according to GPU-Z, we spent the entire test pegged above at 2.075 gigahertz. So, you know, 2075 megahertz. That's pretty high for a card that couldn't go over 2 gigahertz a while ago. And according to the performance cap reasoning here, we are just voltage level, which, quite frankly, the card is volt modded. So it's, that's not real. That's not true. Because I got manual voltage control, so naturally that's going to be the only reason I'll ever be seeing. Now the thing is, if I just go into precision, and I've used afterburner and I've used precision, it doesn't matter which you use. Okay, so we got precision takes a while to open for some reason. Now let's just default the damn thing. Manually set the fan speed. So now we're at like stock clocks, right? And let me just quickly tweak something over on the desk here. It still won't score quite right, but it'll score better. So now let's run it. And suddenly we're getting GTX 1070 grade FPS. Right? That's 30s. Before we were seeing like 20s, low 20s. And now we're seeing 30 plus FPS very, very easily. So how? Right? How does this work? Because once we get into GPU-Z, you will actually see that the core clock is a lot lower. It's a lot lower. And somehow we're getting more FPS. Odd, isn't it? Very, very odd. There's only one GPU architecture I can think of that exhibits this very similar issue, except there it works in reverse. So we're finishing up the test now. And we'll see that our average FPS is way up. The last run was like 26.24. This run we're getting 37.5. A lot higher. A lot higher. If we look at our sensors, we can see that the entire time the GPU clock was hovering around 1800 megahertz. We were also running at 2 gigahertz memory. Now, the memory clock is actually not the issue. No, it's not. This is what's actually happening. So I'm just gonna... How big of a mess is there behind me? Pretty big. Okay, wait. Ugh. There. So, say hi to the horrifically unreliable multimeter. There is my volt mod for the card. Let me try get some light on that. A bit. Okay, so that's the multimeter. That's the voltage control. I can... Wait, are you kidding me? No, that did not make it more legible. Okay, wait. Why do I always have to deal with it? Why do I always forget that this is going to be a problem until I actually start the freaking video? There. Oh, that works perfect. So you can see the voltage, right? If I tweak the voltage straight all the way down to 0.6, we're good. And check this out. Check what I can do while we're at 0.6 core volts. And now I don't have enough space for all the mice. Okay. So now we're at 0.6 V core. And let's just use Afterburner. Just cause. Let's go graphics card, get my render test, sensors, and I'll just dial in 220. Okay? Boom. And now if we start the render test, we're getting 2075 megahertz there. How? How is that possible? We're at 0.66 volts. How is that not crashing instantly? Well, I don't think it's actually running at 2.075 gigahertz. I don't think it's doing the clock that the software is reading. Or if it is doing the clock that the software is reading, the GPU is not utilizing all of the shaders on it or something like that. There's some kind of power efficiency hoo-ha running on inside the GPU core, screwing over performance if you tweak the voltage up and down. Because we're at really low voltage. We got a really high clock somehow. And check out the performance, right? Just benchmarks, run, right? This was basically what I did for that first test. I had the card set to 0.65. Well, 0.66, but you get the idea. It goes up and down a little bit depending on how much load the GPU is at. Funnily enough, this GPU does like the opposite thing to most GPUs, right? Most GPUs, you put them under load, your voltage drops. This goes under load, voltage goes up. I have no idea how that happens, but it does that. I think, well, actually, no, it'll be the LLC kicking in, because I'm measuring off of, like, I'm not measuring right off the back of the core, I'm measuring a bit further away, so, okay, that's explained, but, yeah, so we can now see the FPS is back down to the low 20s. Like, we're below 25 FPS here. How on earth does that work? So let's escape out of that. And reset the card. I do not want auto fan control. Thank you very much, Afterburner. And let's crank up our voltage back. Get back some VCore. Alright, so we're now at like, let's put it to there. That would be about close to stock load. There we go. And let's overclock, right? Let's just max all of those sliders out. And what's our max clock at this setting? Well, there we go. Benchmarks, run. This might crash. This may or may not, this probably will actually crash. It will certainly not run 200 plus 200 core clock, which I will show you right after this run, depending on if this even passes. But then we'll lower the voltage and it'll start passing, which is just, you know, the mysteries of the Pascal architecture. More like the mysteries of whatever shenanigans NVIDIA pulled to get even better power management on the architecture. So, yeah. Like, I am 99% convinced that NVIDIA has integrated some kind of circuitry into the GPU that monitors core voltage, power consumption, and controls GPU clocks, possibly turns off shaders and other parts of the GPU on and off dynamically. And that is what is screwing with the scores here, and why the card can go so high core clock at so low voltage, is because that thing detects that you're at low voltage, and then it does something to make the high core clock possible. I am not entirely sure how it could do that, but it's doing it. Actually, I think this right here, this configuration of voltage, we just pulled the highest score I've seen so far. Let's check it out. Escape, damn it. 3D Mark, you useless pile of garbage. There. Test run. Yes, thank you. Took you long enough to notice. Yeah, see, so now we got 41 FPS. So we actually got a successful overclock. And during that test, we were running just over 2 gigahertz, which is, this is the kind of overclock this card was doing before any of the Volt mods. Okay? So, we're at 0.043, so let's see if we can run 11 plus 160. This should crash. Actually, no. You know what? I'll make it crash hard. Plus 170. This will crash for sure. Guaranteed. And then we're going to lower the core voltage. And then it'll run, but it'll probably score lower. I'm 99% sure. As you tweak your voltage down, it slowly decreases the score. Though once you hit 0.6 volts, the score just falls off a cliff, even though your core clock is going to be about... for this card, 0.6 volts gets me the absolute highest possible core clock. And I actually think it's just like, yeah. So basically, undervolting NVIDIA cards, we're not crashing. That's not fair. Why is it not crashing? Is this thing gonna just screw me over on camera? Oh man, that'd be great. All right, I did pile on a truckload of capacitors. It's right to the back of the GPU core. That could help. Okay, well, looks like this'll pass, unfortunately for me. But we'll keep going up, and I'll get it to crash, and then we'll start tweaking the core voltage down, and I'll show you how the clocks go up. Because that was, yeah, okay, this is passing, which it really isn't supposed to, but hey, at least I know it can clock higher now at like, roughly stock volts. Great, so now we have 42.2 average, so that's really nice and high. Let's go higher. Apply. And run. This should crash. Please crash. Do me a favor and behave how you have behaved like for the last 6 hours or something. Because I've been up all night with this thing. You know, I got that addiction for testing. And, yeah. It was like, I'll just add the voltage control. I'll just add a few capacitors. Oh, these are working a lot better than I expected. Add more capacitors. Oh, there we go. Now it crashed. So luckily for me, the NVIDIA driver is relatively good at recovering. So perfect. So it recovered. Luckily, it didn't forget my fan curve. So that's great. So that just crashed. So let's now lower our core voltage to just under, you know, just under 1 volt. I'll go a tad lower than that. Oh, actually, that's a bit low. There. That's what I wanted. So we're going to run the same settings, just a little bit less voltage, and we shall see. Because it was going 2.06 gigahertz before. So it should do 2.06 gigahertz again. Let's just run this. And this time it shouldn't crash. But it will not do that 42.2 average FPS we got before. Because Pascal is Pascal, and Pascal is the worst. So this is very, so why am I calling this the inverse Fiji problem? Or reverse Fiji problem? So on Fiji, what you would see is that, say, my Fury X's can easily run over 1.2 gigahertz core clock if I feed them 1.35, in excess of 1.35 volts core voltage. The problem is, even with that core clock, and at that core clock, the cards actually score lower than if I was running them at, say, 1150 megahertz stock volts. Why is that? Well, I don't actually know. And AMD won't tell us because, like, I'm sure they know exactly what they screwed up because it's not possible that they don't. But my suspicion for the Fiji problem is that the Fiji cards have something called the SMC. This is a microcontroller built directly into the GPU core that controls the power, clock, voltage, and pretty much everything related to power efficiency on a Fiji GPU. So, yeah, that's on Fiji, right? And that thing, if you raise core voltage too high, you start getting really, really low scores. Actually, as you raise core voltage past a certain point, your score just starts going lower and lower and lower and lower. And that decrease in score is roughly, it's pretty much exponential, which is, interestingly enough, exactly what power draw does as you raise core voltage. As you raise core voltage, you get an exponential ramp in power draw. So that exponential drop-off in performance, to me, is most reasonably explained by some kind of chip level, hardware level, chip hardware level throttling, where GPU-Z says you're still running to 1.24 gigahertz. Like, no monitoring utility actually shows that you're running a lower core clock than what you think you are. Like, you're running that core clock according to software, but the performance is just nowhere near what you should be getting for that given clock. This seems to be the same thing, except in reverse. You lower the voltage, you get a higher clock, and you get worse performance. So, yeah. And if you crank up the voltage on Pascal, it just crashes. Though, I wonder what would, like... I still need to do more testing. Maybe running, like, very low overclocks with very high voltage gets you best performance. I mean, you'd think it working that way, but a lot of these trends just have, like, a starting point, and then they just get worse. Well, let's keep going up, hey? Well, let's go for 200. I'm gonna lower core voltage ever so slightly again. That's the wrong direction. And let's go for it. Also, do note, we were actually running 2.06 gigahertz throughout that entire run. That just failed. That little spike there is the crashed one. So, yeah, and we did get 40.79 FPS. And so far, the best run was 42.2. And if you don't believe me, you can rewind the video. So yeah, Pascal is a very, very painful to overclock architecture, because you think you're getting more performance, right? You're getting a higher core clock. You have to be getting more performance. Well, you're not, because the stupid thing is doing stuff on a hardware level, which, I'm sorry, this multimeter is dumb as a brick. There we go, now it's reading properly. There, so because on a hardware level, the card is doing something that no software seems to be able to pick up. And another interesting thing is we have that weird GPU power draw, like the normalized GPU power draw reading, right? Which, if you watch the live stream, you know what I'm talking about. That reading is like, there's no more current monitoring circuitry left on the GPU for me to trick, right? The INA 3221 is completely disabled. It can't complain anymore. But somehow we have this here, right? We have this power draw graph here. And GPU-Z actually shows that our power draw graph, power draw is hard locked at 99.4%. And that's because of the power mod I did to the card. But GPU-Z still has a power reading. And if we actually look at hardware info, then this power reading is the normalized power reading. And, well, there's no more circuitry on the on the PCB level of the card that can measure power draw. However, on AMD GPUs, the SMC is fully capable of doing power draw measurements. It's actually more accurate than the voltage controller, supposedly. So, this graph right here could very, very easily be a reading from a on-die power efficiency management system that you can't override, and that acts completely ridiculous. Also, our FPS has gone even further, like, it's gone even further down. And we're running even higher core clock than before. Well, same core clock as before, because apparently plus 10 megahertz more here. It doesn't help, but let's do one last test. Low core clock, high voltage. So we're going to just go for plus 100. I'm going to give the card well over stock. So we're going to go over 1.1 volts. Mind you, 1.2 volts on this card, for whatever reason, does not increase overclocking range in the slightest. Let's run that. Let's see what that does. I expect the performance to be okay. but the problem is the GPU seems to be extremely temperature sensitive. So I'm hoping that once I throw it under liquid nitrogen, I can crank up that core voltage really, really high. But on the air cooler, it seems like as I raise the core voltage, I don't actually get any more frequency, and it starts crashing even at clocks that were previously stable. It would be nice if just raising core voltage raised performance, but unfortunately that doesn't seem to work. Lowering core voltage lowers performance, but the opposite doesn't. Past a certain point, the opposite doesn't apply. So, that's kind of unfortunate. Also, once you raise the core voltage on this card, it starts developing coil whine. Mostly because you get higher power draw, and the higher power draw means higher current. Well, higher power draw is caused by the higher voltage and the increased current consumption. And the higher current going through the coils causes them to vibrate more intensely, so you get more noise. Actually, performance on that run wasn't that bad. Yeah, in fact, we're very close to our... We're very, very close to beating the previous best. And we're actually at lower core clock than any of the runs before, right? This is 2.075. 2.075 for most of that run, and then 2.06 for the, sort of the later half. And this run was like 1900s. And it's scoring higher than all of the excess 2 gigahertz clocks. So, NVIDIA? I mean, NoVideo? Congratulations! You've made something that is more painful to work with than Fiji. And I did not think that was possible. Like, seriously, that is an achievement. Let's see what happens if I do plus 120. At this point, I'm sorry. It's like, I still haven't tested the card enough, so I'm sort of going into testing mode again, but I think you see my point. This card is just weird on so many levels. And I can only hope that throwing liquid nitrogen on it makes it stop behaving completely freaking stupid. But at this rate, my hopes aren't very high. On the bright side, it does look like piling on a truckload of capacitors onto the memory has significantly increased memory overclocking capability. Unfortunately, due to I don't know if I should blame the multimeter or if I was doing something wrong, because at some point during like adding the extra capacitors, I did a resistance check for the memory voltage, for the GPU memory to ground. And I was reading 3 ohms, so I thought I must have shorted some components or like killed something somewhere. So I removed 3 multi-layer ceramic capacitors off of one of the memory chips, because that was the last place I had the soldering iron before the bad readings started happening. So, you know, logical assumption is those capacitors, like something in that area must have been screwed up, and the only thing in that area was the little multi-layer ceramics, and so I removed them. And that did not go well, because the card, before I removed them, this card after the capacitor mods was hitting like plus 800 memory clock, but yeah, now it's not doing that. That's interesting. We're getting an even higher score. I wonder how that compares to my posted score on HWBot, because right now one of my biggest concerns is that I haven't managed to beat my old score. Like, I haven't managed to even get close to that old score. So I just want to check this. Hopefully, like, I'm really hoping LN2 just solves all of these issues, which that's usually not how things go. It's like you put LN2 on something that just makes more problems, not less. But oh, yeah, okay, so graphics test 1 is at this point getting higher FPS than my old best score. So it looks like I've mostly, yeah, so mostly more voltage, less core clock, and you get more score. Pascal, I freaking love you. You are the worst architecture I've had the misfortune to ever work with. Except maybe the GT730, which scored terrible for inexplicable, for reasons only known to... I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea. Okay, so I think let's wrap that up here before I start doing even more testing just out of interest and make this video into a sort of post-stream when it's not even really a stream. So, yeah, that's it for this one. Don't forget to check out that the live stream that will be later today on the Overclocking TV channel. It'll be me commentating a bunch of overclocking from oh man, I so wish I was there, but oh well. I'll be commentating that. It'll be awesome. You should definitely check that out. It will be at, I think 12:30, yeah, 12:30 p.m. UK time. And of course, the live stream I said would be today is canceled. There will be a live stream tomorrow with the GTX 1070 on LN2. So that's it for this video, and that means we need to do the thank you for watching. You need to like, share, and subscribe. You should also support Actually Hardcore Overclocking through the Patreon or the PayPal or the shirts, or this is pretty, some people might think it's cool. There's the Actually Hardcore Overclocking Junkyard. It's on the blog, and basically the idea behind the AHOC Junkyard is I just list all the hardware I want to get rid of, and you can basically make an offer and support AHOC that way, because I want to get rid of it. I'm not really sure how much it's worth. A lot of it's going to be stuff that's modified or in really bad condition, which is why I'm putting it on the junkyard and not on like eBay or something, because it's like, who wants my plastic dipped M-Power? Nobody. Who wants my delidded 4790K? Nobody. Who wants, and so I'm sort of figuring, well, you know, there's a sort of level of, I believe that we have a sort of level of trust established here that, you know, there's the junkyard, people can make offers. If you like some, you know, if I like your offer, I'm just going to take you up on it, and you can get something. It is, however, restricted to the EU and UK shipping-wise, just because sending stuff to the US over the Atlantic would be really expensive, and I mean, if you wanted to cover the shipping, I guess you could, but most of the time I'm going to say no. So, yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and see you on the live stream today, and then another one tomorrow. So, yeah, goodbye.